بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Today's talk shall be on Umm Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha, who was among one of the blessed wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Umm Habibah was her nickname, and the actual name was Ramla. So Ramla, who was known as Umm Habibah. Umm Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha's father was a very famous Sahabi known as Abu Sufyan. And he was the leader of the Quraysh. Umm Habibah's first marriage was with Ubaidullah bint Jahash radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And both husband and wife were among the early converts in Islam. And due to the persecution of Muslims, they migrated to Abyssinia. And that's where Umm Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha had her daughter Habibah. Initially, her husband, Ubaidullah bin Jahash, who was the brother of Zainab bint Jahash, who was also one of the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at first he was associated with Christianity. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him guidance and he accepted Islam. And to his misfortune, he then again returned back to Christianity and he renounced Islam. Now, Umm Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha, who was the daughter of Abu Sufyan, had already left Makkah Mukarramah to flee from the persecution of the enemies of Islam. So she was in a foreign land. She had a child. And now, this unfortunate and tragic event shook her life. Umm Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha saw a dream, and in her dream, she saw her husband Ubaidullah bin Jahash in a very bad appearance. So she even mentioned this dream to her husband to try to persuade him to continue with Islam. But not only did he renounce Islam, but he was trying to insist that his wife, Umm Habibah, also renounce Islam. Because according to his understanding, he would receive more privileges and more credit by becoming a Christian in Abyssinia, which was ruled under the Christian king Najashi, who afterwards, to the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, accepted Islam. So nonetheless, he continued with his Christianity, started to drink wine, and he died in that state. On a side note, if the husband and wife are Muslims, and one of the two spouses renounces Islam, then that marriage is annulled. separation is needed. So just as Ubaydullah bin Jahash returned to Christianity, Umm Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha separated from him. And she was in extreme grief. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam found out about this, he also felt very grieved. Because when a person accepts Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides him. Allah opens his heart towards the truth, towards what's haqq. And this is no ordinary journey. Rather, this is a special spiritual journey which a person feels with his creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is so strong and powerful that without strong driving forces, a person does not renounce Islam. And I remember my respected teacher and Shaykh once mentioning that Islam is so powerful that those who, in the true manner, accept Islam, Islam is a nur and light. This nur and light penetrates the heart. It's not possible for that person to leave Islam. And those who have left Islam, this means that Islam did not even enter into their hearts yet. Irrespective of whatever the outer conditions may be, Islam is a very powerful light. If a person leaves Islam, then that means Islam has not even entered into that person's life. May Allah safeguard all of us. So Umm Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha was extremely grieved and sorrowed at her husband's plight. Nonetheless, when the Prophet ﷺ found out about this, the Prophet ﷺ decided to give practical consolation. He sent a proposal of marriage through Amr bin Umayyah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu to the king of Najashi, Negus. And he sent a message. And the message was, with the consent of Umm Habibah, marry me to her. So the king of Abyssinia, Negus, Najashi, sent one of his slave girls with this message to Umm Habibah. A knock was made at the door. The slave girl said, I have been sent with a message for you. And the message was that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has sent a proposal of marriage for you. He wishes to marry you. Do you accept? Umm Habibah wholeheartedly accepted. She became overjoyed. Thereafter, the king Najashi, he was acting on behalf of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Habibah appointed Khalid bin Sa'id bin As radiyallahu ta'ala to act on her behalf. So the king of Abyssinia, Negus, Najashi, summoned both proxies, summoned both agents in the presence of Ja'far bin Abi Talib and other elite companions radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. And the king of Abyssinia performed the marriage on behalf of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Habibah using her proxy. And once the marriage was contracted, the king of Abyssinia, Negus Najashi gave 400 dinar as dowry from his own side on behalf of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Umm Habibah, along with other gifts. When these gifts were given to Umm Habibah gave some of these gifts to the slave girl, but she refused to accept it, and she said that I have been instructed by the king to not take anything from you. So she gave it back to Umm Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha. Thereafter, a feast was arranged, and after the entire wedding ceremony, the king of Abyssinia made arrangements for Umm Habibah to return back to Medina Munawwara along with other immigrants, led by Shurahbil bin Hasana. Now came the time when Umm Habibah arrived in Medina Munawwara in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And she was a very pious lady, a very devout lady. Her own father used to say in respect to her, "Indi ahsanul Arab wa ajmaluhu bint Abi Sufyan," that among the most beautiful and best women of the Arabs is the daughter of Abu Sufyan, Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam removed this unfortunate situation, not only through his words but through his actions. Once Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha was in her room, and her father Abu Sufyan, who she had not met for several years, keeping in mind that he was the leader of the Quraysh. And after the peace treaty, which took place in the 6th year of Hijrah, was broken by the Quraysh, he came to his daughter, Ramala, Habibah radiyallahu, to intercede on behalf of his people. And when he came, he sat on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's bed. And his daughter, Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha, very respectfully said to him, "You must not sit here, because this bed belongs to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he is pure. He is a prophet of Allah, and you are impure, because you ascribe partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." When her father heard these remarks, he was shocked. He was shocked. And he said that something bad has befallen you. So when he realized the change that has occurred in his daughter, this had an effect on him. And afterwards, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted Abu Sufyan guidance, and Abu Sufyan also accepted Islam. And keep in mind, Habibah was the sister of Muawiyah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who was the first Umayyad Khalifa. And he had accepted Islam as well, Muawiyah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Now, in this particular case, Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala understood that my father is my respected leader. And she had to balance between that emotional love that she had with her father and the divine love which she had for Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. and she understood لا طاعة لمخلوق في معصية الخالق, that there is no obedience towards the makhluk and the people and the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala occurs. So nonetheless, she gave preference to the love of Allah, the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, over the love of her father. Umm Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha was number 3 in terms of narrating a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha was at the top. She narrated approximately 2,200 hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Thereafter, Salama radiyallahu ta'ala narrated a large number of ahadith. At number 3, Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala narrated a large number, approximately 65 ahadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And among one of those ahadith is a hadith wherein Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that whoever performs 12 raka'at a day, referring to the sunnah mu'akkada, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shall build for him, construct for him a place in Jannah. So Habibah radiyallahu was extremely punctual in these 12 raka'at of sunnah mu'akkada, and she would never ever let them go. This is a very important point to remember, and that is our mothers, our sisters, when they hear Quranic verses, when they hear a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, many a times there's that emotional attachment to narrate this information to other people. Yet many a times we see that it's only narration. So along with narration, practice is very important. Whatever we hear, whatever we learn, we need to bring it into practice. And in today's day and age, the sources that we acquire knowledge from, if these sources are reliable, if these sources are authentic, if these sources are in line with the teachings of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and according to the principles which the ulama ikram have set, then a person should take this knowledge, apply it to his life, and then convey this knowledge to others. It has become a fashion in today's day and age that talks are listened to, seminars are attended, conferences are attended, long lectures are listened to, both in person and on social media. Yet, very little practice is seen. A person, along with acquiring knowledge, ilm, he also needs to bring that ilm and that knowledge into practice. So Umm Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha would not miss these 12 raka'at, sunnah mu'akkada, and she also narrated this hadith to senior companions radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. Umm Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha she passed away at the age of approximately 72, 73 in the 45th year of Hijrah. This is a time when her brother Muawiyah radiyallahu ta'ala anha had become the Khalifa. So these were just some very important points related to the life of Umm Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha, Ramla radiyallahu ta'ala anha, which highlights and which shows how the Prophet ﷺ's nurturing, how the Prophet ﷺ's training had an impact on her life. And also we learn that Rasulullah ﷺ had feeling in his heart for the Muslim Ummah. This is a very important quality, and this very important quality lacks in today's day and age. Many of us don't grieve with others. We don't show sympathy. We don't show compassion. Neither do we show compassion through our words, and nor do we show compassion through our actions. Rasulullah ﷺ had a very compassionate heart. He had feeling for others. In today's day and age, to have feeling for others and to express that feeling through one's words, to express that feeling through one's actions, to express that feeling by having patience. This is very important. Umm Habibah radiyallahu ta'ala anha, when she was in this very difficult situation where she had to endure a lot of difficulty, she took it upon herself in a foreign land without family, and she very patiently went through this very difficult ordeal, turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, her turning to Allah increased. And for my mothers and sisters who go through emotional distress, who go through physical hardships, the only way to overcome these physical and emotional distress and hardships is to turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Guidance also needs to be sought, but the guidance eventually will include remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking forgiveness for one's sins. This helps the coping process. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to understand and practice. Wa akhiru da'wana an alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Sadaqallahu al-azim.